Great trade for Milwaukee.
I mean, first of all, the first thing to say is that I can say from experience, it's not surprising to me that this was a total silence. If this current front office in Milwaukee keeps things pretty tight, and yeah, as we saw, like I think there had been some like whispers, but nothing like it's been sort of like, yeah, but they got nothing to make it happen was sort of the general consensus, and no one really examined it past that. Um, I'll let you guys go first. What you think of this trade for Milwaukee? Because I think I might disagree with you.
Oh, I like it for Milwaukee a lot. I Everybody's calling this an automatic slam dunk, and it is to a degree. But there are questions. Like there are things that about this team, and listen, let me put it this way: you do this deal 100 out of 100 times. Like this is a no brainer. You make this move, but like this Milwaukee team has a lot of holes now, and a lot of stuff in that sense, and their offense is going to be 10 times better than what it was with Drew Holiday when you add Dame into that. But their defense is going to drop off massively. And now it becomes the question of under a new coach, how do you defend? And what I'm looking at more importantly is like, how do you defend Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the playoffs? Because that's really what it's going to come down to it. And when I look at their roster, I'm just like, they don't have anything. But Milwaukee fans still be happy and excited because you also now have an elite scorer end of games. He's going to be dribbling the ball way more than Chris Middleton. I trust him more than Middleton. I think it's going to unlock a lot more different options for them offensively for Chris Middleton as well as Giannis. I think there's a lot of things there offensively, but we can't ignore the fact that this does give up a lot defensively.
I think that again, I agree with Mo. Their offense is going to be elite. This is probably going to be a top 3 or 4, 5 offense in their sleep, especially with their starting lineup. And Damian Lillard and Giannis as an offensive pairing in the pick and roll. When has Giannis ever played with a shooter like this? You know, a guy who can shoot off the dribble and is a threat to shoot off the dribble. I think Giannis's shot diet is going to improve. I think it's going to be an easier time for him to score. And hopefully that translates to more activity on the defensive end. I mean, he had crazy usage last season on the offensive end. We saw a marked downturn in his defensive activity the last couple of years. Maybe he gets to crank it up on the defensive end a little bit more, and that helps buoy that defense a little bit. But you're going to have a top 5 offense, and maybe their defense is, 12th. That's the concern. But you still have Brook Lopez, even though he's a year older. You still have that corporate knowledge. And I think it's a great trade in that they did improve, especially in their offense. But I do have my concerns about defense come playoff time.
So, as is my want, I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. I think on balance, I like the trade. First of all, I like the swing. I think that teams that are all in should be all in, and the Bucks are all in, and they're going to be all in until the wheels fall off. And that's, I think, the way championship level teams should operate. To the trade itself, I think some things need to be understood. First of all, Damian Lillard is a much bigger name than Drew Holiday, but the difference between their ability and their notoriety is that the gap is much smaller in ability than it is in notoriety. I think there are some knock-on effects on the defense. It's not just downgrading from perhaps the best point of attack defender in the league to one of the worst. It is how they best utilize, how they've turned Brook Lopez into a defensive player of the year type player, has in part depended on them being able to impact the ball at the point of attack, make sure guards feel a defender and are pushed in, almost like hounds to the hunters sort of way. And so not just that downgrade at the point guard position, but the degree to which it might make Brook Lopez less effective defensively. They were already thin. They're thinner. Even just going, Grayson Allen, not the greatest playoff player, but that's still one less guy that Milwaukee has that you can even semi-count on. And I think that for all those reasons, I think it raises their ceiling but it doesn't. I don't think it makes them. I think there's been a round overreaction to how much of the favorite they should be after this.
Well, and to the point about the ceiling, their high floor was in large part because of their defense. On the nights where their offense just didn't have it, their defense really picked them up. But I mean, and Mo, you're probably going to say the same thing. I think this offense is just going to be unstoppable.
I've got one more point, and this is something we talk about a lot with some other teams, is you're talking about Giannis changing the way he plays to accommodate this other player. There's a want to element of that. Like we've seen it with, we see it more often with sort of two ball dominant guards. Well, they should be able to play off the ball and play off each other, but does Luka want to be active off the ball? Does Giannis not have the ball in his hands? Does he not want to initiate the offense in crunch time? Is he okay? How many Lillard 30-footers is it? No, mine. That's it. I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but I'm saying it's a question until we see it.
I'm thinking about offensive rebounds right now and what they could do with, Brook and Giannis and even Chris Middleton, who's a good positional rebounder. There's some stuff there.
I'm not so worried about that last point, Seth, just about the want to and adjusting. I think Giannis seems to be very pliable in that way. And I think he's going to, Seth's shaking his head viciously. So, and he knows him better than I did.
I think that is, I think that Mike Budenholzer rightfully got a lot of blame for sort of lack of versatility in their offensive attack. Some of that is the
Giannis.
Some of that is that's how I want to play. I want to have the ball in my hands at the top of the floor. Now,
and I think
with Dame Lillard, does that change?
I think that's got to be the thing. If you're Giannis, you just got to look at the difference in the players is vast on offense. So Seth, I disagree with you on that point, just because Drew, they don't run a ton of great half court stuff. And a lot of shots that Drew takes, his shot selection is shaky. There are times where he's taking shots and I'm just like, yo, no, what are you doing? Whereas Dame might take some of those same shots, but the confidence level in Dame, who basically can pull it from half court, and I'll be like, good shot. I think there's a big difference there, and I think Giannis has got to see that. And if he doesn't, then this partnership's going to fail just on the pure fact of Giannis' stubbornness in that regard. But I think the points that you're making, Seth, and I think this is the one thing, the overreaction to now the Bucks are the favorite, and this is it, and this is all that. This is why, and I know we'll talk about them later, but this is why Miami I thought was the perfect place, because Dame slots right into them. And they don't give up much in terms of defense and stuff and whatnot. Like he kind of fills out their role. Like to me, his chance of winning a championship would have been higher in Miami than it's going to be in Milwaukee. Not to say it's not high in Milwaukee, but I think his odds would have been better in Miami. But I just think this is a gamble. It is a risk. This dude's 33 years old. But also when you look at it, it cost them one full draft pick, 2 pick swaps that may or may not actually be swaps. We don't know. Nobody can tell us what's going to be in 2028 or 2030. But I think and they lost Grayson Allen. Okay. Like for me, like the stuff they gave up to get him, and yes, they are thinner. They're going to need some of those young guys to hit. They're going to need Marjon Beauchamp to be something. I don't know what the plan is with Andre Jackson, but they might need those guys to grow up very quickly and give them some minutes. But I think the risk was obviously worth taking in terms of what they gave up. So for me, like, I don't know if this makes them automatically the favorites. It puts them there. But I think it's there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And this is going to be Adrian Griffin's first time coaching. And this is a high pressure situation now for him.
I think one of the biggest questions is what Chris Middleton is going to be out there this season, right? If last year he's coming back from the knee thing. Is that a one-off, and he's shaking off the rust and he's going to come back and be the guy that we expect him to be? Or is that the start of a decline? I mean, because he's also important to them, on both ends, right? Defensively as well. I mean, this is the guy who's likely going to have to now guard Jason Tatum some. Or, you're really banking a lot on Jay Crowder being able to bounce back and be a productive player for you. So I think it's those, and I'm not going to say Chris Middleton's on the margins, because Chris Middleton is a very good player when he's healthy. It's just, is he going to be healthy for them? So that might, it lays right into the depth concerns, right?
I mean, that was well, if not, we're screwed before this trade, and it's the same after this trade. So I don't like that's. I mean, again, if you're winning a championship, you're sort of, what is the stuff goes right? What does that look like? Because if stuff goes wrong, you don't win. So it's sort of that's sort of baked in, and so that's why I think that the ceiling raising, even if we, without litigating the overall value of the two players, even if they're equal and your ceiling gets higher, I think that's still, for a team in the Bucks situation, I think that's still something you got to look at doing.
And I think your point about Brook Lopez's defense, being impacted by this is huge. And I think very under-discussed in that sense. And that's the understanding of the most important thing about center field defense is the guard. So people have that understanding. I just want to elaborate on it. It's the guard pushing the ball handler over the top and continuing to chase him. And continuing that. And if it's Dame dies on a screen, then it's a 2-on-1. If Dame's slow to kind of chase in that sense, and we know he's not defensive guy at all, like, that's a genuine concern. Now will Adrian Griffin have to change up stuff defensively? Like, this is where it's going to get interesting. Is Giannis going to guard wings? We know he wanted to guard Jimmy Butler during the series. Bud was a little bit resistant to that. And I think those are going to be the questions that we're going to find out now. It's going to be interesting in that regard. I still look at them and Boston as the top two teams in the East, though. I don't think this moves really anything else. I think these are the top two contenders, and everybody else is just, playing to hang out.